Today on rLounge, we aren't in Kansas anymore. Hold on to your hats. We're in for a bumpy ride. This wicked witch thinks she can get away with kidnapping. Hansel and Gretel be warned. Up first, these kids almost weren't home for Christmas. Stepmonster tried to kidnap me and my sister for Christmas. This happened in 2009 when I was 15 and my sister was 11. I honestly don't remember it well. I had to call my mother to fill me in on some details. It helped a little. My parents got divorced when I was 10. My mother got primary custody, but we stayed with my father for about 3 days a week, sometimes more. They took turns celebrating the holidays with us. We'd spend them with one parent in 1 year and with the other one the next. In March 2009, my father and his then girlfriend, Molly, broke up, and he confessed to cheating with the woman that eventually became Stepmom. Years later, I found out that affair had been going on for almost 2 years by the time he told Molly. He introduced Stepmom to us in May, on my birthday actually, and they almost immediately announced their engagement. From that moment, they started trying to force us all to be a happy blended family, which usually meant forcing us to do everything she, or sometimes my stepbrother, wanted and pretending my mom wasn't in the picture. Stepmom and my dad started pushing her to leave us with them a lot more often than my parents had previously agreed, but she thankfully wouldn't budge. We started getting ready for the holidays in November, and Stepmom started talking about a ski resort, hotel, I don't know, it was 14 years ago, that she wanted to visit with us. It was a 3-hour car drive from where we were living and was clearly more suited for couples, younger children, or the elderly. Neither me or my sister actually wanted to go, but before we could say that, Stepmom asked us when we'd be done with school so that she could book it for a 2-week trip during our winter break. I was happy to be the one to break it to her. We'd spent Christmas and New Year's Day with my father and Molly the year before, so it was my mom's turn to have us. My father and stepmother called my mother dozens of times to try to convince her to let them take us, insisting that Stepmom was excited to spend Christmas with us and that the previous year's holidays didn't count because we'd spent them with Molly. My mom said no, as she'd already made plans, and the subject was dropped for a few weeks. Then, on our last day of school before winter break, Stepmom picked me and my sister up from our schools. That was fine. We were supposed to spend a couple of days with my father before the holidays. What wasn't fine was the moment we got into her car, Stepmom said, "We're going to the ski resort, surprise!" She proceeded to tell us that they'd already packed our bags for us, and Dad would meet us there. I asked if my mom knew about this, and she said, "Sure." But I knew that was a lie. I also didn't believe her when she said we'd only be there for a couple of days and would be back before Christmas. I figured they'd booked the 2-week stay they wanted and would probably guilt trip us both into staying once their couple of days were up. I was terrified. I didn't have a phone. My mom thought I was still too young to have one. Didn't trust Stepmom, and I could see my sister was even more scared. I told Stepmom we didn't want to go. She said, "Fine, let's just pick stepbrother up from school." We picked him up from school. Stepmom said, "Okay, now let's go to the resort." I said again that we didn't want to go. She said, "Fine, let's just find a gas station and fill up." That pattern repeated itself about 6 times over the next hour. Every time I said we didn't want to go, Stepmom would make up an excuse and pretend to forget my plea. As we were about to leave town, my dad called Stepmom. I heard them fight for a few minutes about something, and then she hung up. Stepbrother asked her what happened, but she didn't answer. Then she said, "I'm taking you kids to your mom's." She turned the car around and took us home. When we got there, my mom pulled us out of the car and screamed at Stepmom to leave, which she did. My mom was hugging us and bawling as if she hadn't seen us in years. She didn't tell me the full story until a few days later. Basically, my mom called my dad in panic because he'd never told her we'd gotten home, which he always did whenever he picked us up from school. He was hoping she wouldn't call until we were already at the resort. My father knew that lying would do more harm than good, so he told her their plans. He tried to spin it around as something my sister wanted, but my mother didn't buy it. She told him that if Stepmom didn't take us back to her place, she'd call the police. My father and Stepmom took my stepbrother to the resort. For a few months after, they bragged about all the fun they had and all the things me and my sister missed. Stepbrother later confided in me that he actually hated it. He barely saw his mom while they were there, and he spent Christmas mostly alone in their room. Stepmom called us both selfish for trying to ruin their holidays. My sister actually felt guilty for a while, and I had to reassure her. My mom didn't call the cops or press charges. At the time, she didn't know if what Stepmom did would qualify as a crime, or if they'd actually help. She also feared that would ruin our relationship with my father, with whom she was still trying to stay on amicable terms. Years later, she told me she regretted not calling anyone. And that's the story of how I got my first phone. For some reason, I really hate this story. so much that I avoid talking about it. This text was actually on my drafts for almost a week. It's far from the worst thing stepmom has ever done, but it still pisses me off. I admit that writing it all down did help a little though. Let's check into the community for some comments. Our first unnamed comment says, "Wow, what an itch bay. And your dad wasn't any better. How's your relationship with them now?" The OP replies, "We kept a relationship with my father and stepmom for years. This type of behavior continued throughout. My fiance and I got a restraining order against stepmom 2 months ago after she abused my 4-year-old brother-in-law. My dad took her aside, so me and my sister are no contact with him. I posted about that too, but it's a long story." Our next comment comes from JNTJ8068. "OMG, I didn't realize you were the same person. I read that story. There isn't a deep enough pit in hell for her." FKK2019 says, "That's a little bit scary. Yeah, some schools aren't very strict about who is allowed to pick up kids from school. I remember that being an issue at my grade school when some kids almost got actual kidnapped." The OP replies, "I was in high school at the time and they didn't really see who picked up the students. My sister was in middle school and they were a bit more strict. My dad had told them to allow stepmom to pick her up. After winter break, my mom called them to revoke that permission." Wow, OP. That's definitely kidnapping. It makes sense that you hate this story. It's traumatic. You don't know what's going on, and you're supposed to be with an adult who is supposed to be someone you can trust, someone who should have your best interest in mind. I can imagine at such an age how horrific that would be, being taken against your will by someone you don't really like. It was wrong of your dad to even try to get away with that. I think he realized how much trouble he would get in if the plan had actually gone through. He may have never seen you guys again. Stepmom sounds toxic, but then again, so does your dad. They both sound like very selfish individuals. No means no, no matter what age. What do you make of this? Next up, a Barbie girl. Not in a Barbie world. This next post is actually from the previous OP. "Stepmonster tried to hijack our baby shower. My fiancée Jane found out she was pregnant in June of 2021, and we announced it to our immediate families in August. At first, stepmom was completely uninterested in our baby. Not that I expected much from the woman whose reaction to our pregnancy announcement was to ask Jane if she was sure it was mine. Even my dad berated her for that one. But she barely seemed to acknowledge the fact that we were expecting. Instead, she was more interested in my stepbrother, who was also engaged, and would give her beautiful grandbaby soon. No complaints, we didn't want her involved, and we didn't even have to say anything. Planning our baby shower was complicated. Both me and Jane would have to work until the holidays, and I wanted to be involved. The due date was in February of 2022, so we decided on early January as the best period of time. We enlisted 2 people as planners. My sister Laura, just realized I'd never given her a name, and Jane's best friend, Nina. Me and Jane are mostly laid-back people. We didn't want a big party, nor did we want to spend too much money on it. We were saving for both our baby and the wedding. We decided early on that the shower would be co-ed. It would also have to be indoors, again, January, and we settled on a guest list of 25 people, plus about a dozen kids. We came up with the idea of a pizza party. Me, Jane, and Luke, my brother-in-law's surrogate son, have had homemade pizza nights weekly since I moved in, and we thought it would be fun to incorporate that into the shower. Nina found an event venue with a pizza oven, and Laura figured out ways to incorporate classic baby shower stuff into the theme. The resulting plans were awesome. Make your own pizzas, non-alcoholic drinks, and plain bodysuits for the kids to customize. Nina and Laura mixed pizza decor with baby decor and found pizza-shaped sweets. It almost seemed messy, and I was surprised they made it work, but we loved it. Most of the planning was finished by the middle of November. Well, later that month, my stepbrother's fiancée left him for her ex. They'd been together for 4 years at that point, and it was both sudden and traumatizing for him. He was devastated. Stepmom then realized the grandkids she dreamed of would take longer to come than she thought. So naturally, without her son's milestones to obsess over, she moved on to mine. Suddenly, stepmom went from aloof relative to excited grandma-to-be. Facebook posts, tacky, promoted to Nana shirts, the whole 9. At first, we were too busy finishing things up at work and getting ready for the holidays to worry about that. But it didn't take long for her to start pestering us about planning the baby shower, as well as a gender reveal. We denied the possibility of a gender reveal party. No offense to those who like them, but we don't. Plus, we had decided to wait until birth to find out the sex. Stepmom tried to get us to find out and tell her as a Christmas present, but we didn't. We also denied her the baby shower. She told my father, and he told Laura into letting stepmom help out with the plans. She was still living with at the time, so she didn't have much of a choice. She called Nina, and they met Stepmom for coffee. Though I wasn't there for that meeting, Laura told me what happened later. Before they could even mention their plans, Stepmom started talking about hers. According to Laura, she pulled a shockingly thick binder, complete with the words "Oh baby" on the cover, colorful tabs, and pieces of fabric poking out, from her big bag and skipped to the shower section. It was short compared to the rest of the binder, but still long. And it was all to describe her one and only baby shower project. Laura sent me pictures and, oh boy. I'll give her this. It looked like the most Instagrammable baby shower ever. That being said, it was also barely functional and obviously expensive. There were balloons, oversized teddy bears, giant alphabet blocks, and cringeworthy signs everywhere. Stepmom was going for pretty over the cozy, with uncomfortable chairs and some fancy food ideas that didn't look edible. Most of them had soft cheeses, which Jane couldn't eat. The color palette was just 3 different shades of pink with gold accents. We'd be fine with a pink baby shower if it at least tried to mix things up a little bit. But Stepmom's pictures looked like Barbie had puked all over Hello Kitty's birthday party. When Nina tried to remind her that we didn't know the sex, Stepmom said she just knew it was a girl. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. Stepmom also wanted an all-female, child-free party with fancy caterers and alcohol. She had written down a guest suggestion list containing some of her closest friends. Neither mine nor Jane's moms were on it, and planned party games no one had any interest in trying out. Basically, the only thing everyone could agree on was to hold the party indoors. Laura and Nina weren't given an opportunity to show her their plans until she was done. Once they could, they explained that while they could find a way to incorporate some of Stepmom's ideas, they'd already settled on the pizza theme. She tried to protest, but Laura stated that it was kind of them to even offer that, as the shower was a month away and we'd already greenlit their plans. Stepmom even called me to try to get them to change their minds, but I just repeated their words. My dad had found out he couldn't come to the shower, so he didn't get a say in anything anymore. The holidays came around, and the subject was dropped. Stepmom seemed to be okay with the pizza party. Nina managed to pair some of the pink decor she'd wanted with matchable blue stuff, and even added one of the huge teddy bears. Fast forward to a week before the shower. Jane was almost 8 months pregnant. Everything had been bought, all guests had RSVP'd, and pretty much anything was ready to go. The shower was set to start at 7 p.m. Stepmom offered to get to the venue early to prepare everything. Laura agreed, mostly because she knew Stepmom would complain if she didn't get to do anything, and the venue even let them drop off their decorations before the party. Me and Jane promised to get there at 6. 2 days before the shower, however, the venue called Nina. They told her that Stepmom had stopped by to drop off large, heavy boxes of what she called a little surprise for us. She'd informed them that she planned on showing up at 3:30 p.m. to start setting up. They were calling to reinforce that the venue was only booked past 4 p.m., since Stepmom almost threw a tantrum when told that. All of the decor was still at Nina's place, so she called Laura to check if they'd left anything with Stepmom. Thankfully, my sister is both smart and used to this crap, so she drove to the venue the next day and asked to see Stepmom's boxes. She told me she wasn't even surprised at its contents when she opened them, but still shocked at Stepmom's audacity. All of the boxes were filled with pink, frilly decorations. Some of them seemed to be the exact same items Stepmom had initially shown Laura and Nina. The signs, the balloons, the placemats, everything. Laura realized that why Stepmom intended to get to the venue earlier, to set up the baby shower she'd planned and pretty much force us all to party in Barbie hell with her. She called Nina to figure out what to do. Neither of them could come at 4 p.m., so it was almost inevitable for Stepmom to get her way. The most obvious solution they came up with was to throw everything away, but Laura had a better idea. That night, they called me and Jane. Hey, want to destroy a party in 2 hours? Laura got home and invited Stepmom to go to a salon with her, lying about having coupons. Stepmom agreed, and they planned on going right after Stepmom was done preparing the baby shower. At 4 p.m. the next day, Stepmom got to the venue. She was done setting things up by 5. I'll admit the woman is fast, and quickly left to meet Laura at the salon. Once they were together, Laura texted Nina that the coast was clear. At that, me, Jane, and Nina went to the venue. Sure enough, Stepmom had prepared her party. To make this shorter, I won't describe it, but I will say it was so pink it almost gave Jane nausea. For the next 2 hours, Laura distracted Stepmom at the salon while the 3 of us quickly took down every single piece of decor Stepmom had put up and replaced it with the pizza party stuff. We set up the activities, made up the tables, and put every pink item we found back in Stepmom's boxes. It was actually really fun. We were done only minutes before the shower started. A handful of guests arrived before Stepmom did, so I barely saw her all night. Laura told me that when they got there, Stepmom's jaws dropped as she tried to make sense of what had happened to all of her pink decor. My sister just smiled, whispered, "Nice try," in her ear, and went to help Luke customize a bodysuit. Overall, the baby shower was everything we'd hoped for. Our friends were there, people had fun, and we had a ton of pizza. So I didn't really care that Stepmom spent the whole party literally sulking in the corner. Nina did catch her trying to put little pink bows on top of the cupcakes, but she quickly shut that down. I give Laura and Nina full credit for saving the day. Stepmom's interest in our baby quickly died after that. She stopped wearing her Nana shirts, didn't come to see us at the hospital when he was born, and refused to even acknowledge that he was a boy until she met him weeks later. Up until we went no contact, she was a very loose definition of the word grandmother. I couldn't be more grateful. My son will never know her. Edit. The baby shower was at 7 p.m. because it was the only time that worked for everyone. That included the venue, because it was booked for the morning and we needed time to set things up. Luke was the only small child there. All the others were at least 9. Most of the parents there left early on, too. Also, though it wasn't child-free and we were prepared for everyone we'd invited, not everyone on the guest list was able to come. Now let's see how the community reacts to the story. Shrikar810 says, "I love the nice try. Absolutely. This is Sparta moment. Amazing. Great, but apologies for the pain you went through." The OP replies, "I've told Laura that that moment alone could be the sole reason why she's my son's grandmother." Zero Zip Zilch Not a Nun says, "I love a good neutralization and counterattack story. Laura and Nina rock." The OP responds, "They do. Nina has been Jane's best friend since they were in diapers and has always been a huge help, and Laura is easily one of the most reliable people I know." Fiber Kitty has her last comment. "I love it when a plan comes together. You have some amazingly talented allies." Again, a very selfish display from Stepmom and another nail in the coffin for her. To think this woman thought she could get away with it. I'm not surprised she lost interest as soon as she lost control. She definitely loves to be behind the wheel. Thank goodness for your friends. Good on you for setting boundaries and protecting your son from such an unhinged woman. She doesn't have the best track record with children. Your kid might have been the next one kidnapped in her back seat. Do you have your own stepmommy nightmare? Share it with us in the comments below. And thank you for joining us today on our lounge. Before you go, be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you have something you want to say regarding today's content or even our channel, share that with us. We love to hear from you.